All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Torah Studies. So this is our weekly look at the Torah portion. This week's Torah portion is Chayei Sarah. And, of course, as we know, Torah portion of Chayei Sarah begins with the passing of Sarah, which is interesting to note. The word is probably not ironic. Alanis Morissette, apologies to you. The word is probably not ironic. The word is probably, interesting. That the Torah portion that is literally named Chayei Sarah, the life of Sarah, opens with her passing. And it tells us, as our sages tell us, it teaches us that a tzaddik's life is really noticed once they pass on. Because how do you know if someone really lived? It's if their accomplishments live on past their time on earth. If they leave a legacy, if people follow in their ways, if their life's mission and their teachings and what they stood for, if that lives on, then indeed that is a life that was lived to the fullest, touching on that idea of eternality and continuity. All right, but that's the beginning of the Torah portion. Today we're going to focus on the end of the Torah portion. And, I always say this when it comes up in context, that there are some stories or some passages, some details of Torah that it's almost like it's in the Torah and it's in the Torah portion as we read it, each and every year. But for some reason, some episodes, I don't know, they get totally glossed over, including the one we're going to deal with tonight. So grab a copy. We are going to jump into the story that takes place all the way at the end of this week's Torah portion. A lot of drama in this week's Torah portion. A lot of things are happening. It's like there's just so much. There's whatever. There's just a lot of stuff that's going on. At the end of the Torah portion, you got it? No. All right. The end of the Torah portion, we're told that Abraham, gets married once again. The Torah portion opens with Sarah passing away. She passes away. She dies. His wife, his beloved wife, Sarah. And the Torah tells us that at the end of the portion that he marries another woman. And who is this woman? What is her name? Who knows the name? Keturah. There you go. Keturah. And our sages tell us, who is Keturah?
Hagar.
According to one opinion. According to another opinion, it was somebody else, someone new. So difference of opinion. I know it's shocking that in Torah analysis and amongst the commentaries, you have different opinions. I know everyone just take a moment to digest the concept that there might be different opinions, but indeed there are different opinions as to whether or not Keturah was Hagar or she was somebody else. Either way, he marries Keturah, and the Torah tells us that she gives birth to another set of children for Avram, for Abraham. I want to, before we read the text inside, I want to lay out the class. Here's the wireframe. Here's the outline of the class. We're going to read the verses that speak about Abraham's new family, as it were, his new wife and children. I'm then going to pose two questions. I'm going to offer three possible answers to the second question. I will then pose an additional question, the third question total. And then I will, hold on, what am I going to do after that? I will pose the third question and then get into the heart of the explanation, which will answer all of the questions. And it's from a deeper perspective. Okay, so that's it. Verses, two questions, three answers, a third question, an explanation that answers everything, and then we'll walk away with a life lesson. All right. If we can do that in the next 50 minutes, we will be successful. And I think we can. I believe in us to get this done. All right, so let's begin. Toba, please hold on. Let me pull this up first before you get started to read. Give me a second. Make sure we have this ready to roll. All right, this is going to be text 1A. Please hold on and please begin.
And Abraham took another wife, and her name was Keturah. And she bore him Zimran, Yakshan, Medan, Midian, Yishbak, and Shuach.
There you go. 6 sons. Zimran, Yakshan, Medan, Midian, Yashbak, and Shuach. And I feel like it's appropriate to ask a very simple question. Okay, the very simple question is, Who has heard of Zimran, Yakshan, Medan, Midyan, Yishbak, and Shuach? Anybody? No?
Okay.
I'm going to say I have not heard of them either, other than, of course, the Torah. They're very, I mean, we don't really know much about them. We don't really know anything about them. Okay, please do, if you don't mind, please also do text 1b.
And he gave everything he owned to Isaac, and to the concubine's sons, Abraham gave gifts and sent them away from his son Isaac during Isaac's lifetime to a land.
All right, so here we go. So here we have, hold on one second. Here we have the aftermath. This is what happens. What happens is that the Torah says very clearly that Abraham gave everything he owned to Isaac. And what about the other 6 sons? He sent them away. He gave them gifts and he sent them away. And where did he send them? To a land in the east. Wow. Talk about mysterious. We don't know who these guys are. We don't know where they went, other than they went to the east. And he gave them gifts. And what are the gifts that he gave them? According to Rashi and the other commentaries, he gave them gifts of wisdom and inspiration. Okay? He gave them gifts of wisdom and inspiration, sent them to the east. And by the way, I should probably mention parenthetically that many commentaries, many scholars have posited that the sons of Avram, of Abraham, the founder of Judaism, these children that went to the east are the fathers, in turn, of the Eastern religions, the Eastern philosophies, and Buddhism, and, again, Eastern spirituality. All of those ultimately, some posit, come from Abraham, from the Abrahamic tradition, thus uniting all of the world's religions. Because if you think about it, I mean, Abraham is certainly the father of Christianity and Islam. And if we posit that the children he sent off, sons he sent off to the east with gifts of wisdom, are the fathers of the Eastern religions, then pretty much everybody is coming somehow from Abraham, which is kind of wild. All right. So with this in mind, I think we're ready for the questions. Okay, I'm going to ask 2 questions. You might also have questions, but let's discuss. If you have questions, just jump in and ask your questions. Here are my questions. Question number 1. It seems a little strange. Abraham starts this new family. He gets married. Either he remarries Hagar, and by the way, in case I didn't explain before, hello, good evening. Didn't explain before, but who was Hagar, right? If we say that he remarried her, so she's the mother of Ishmael, right? Abraham's first son. Even
it's interesting,
Isaac,
though, that in the
Ishmael.
Translation they refer to her as the concubine. It's his wife.
I know, exactly. And she was initially the concubine with Isaac, right? So that's why it seems like it says he took. By the way,
in the Hebrew, I don't have my art scroll, but in the Hebrew, it says his wife. It doesn't say Pelegesh.
No, it says Vilavneha Pilakshim. So when it talks about he took her, it says V'yikach Isha, which means he took a woman. Now, does that mean he took a wife? In this translation, it says wife. But I would push back on the translation and say, I don't know. It says, oh, you guys need copies.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do. All right. Scott, please grab a few. All right. We got the sticky chocolate things.
I'm referring to the beginning when she has Ishmael.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I hear you. All right. That's already a good, excellent point. Was Hagar his wife or his concubine? I don't know. I'll tell you this, I wasn't there. However, even in this reading, we find a little bit of he says he took Isha, which he took a woman, but that's something you would say typically regarding a wife. And then it says, referring to the children, they were the children of concubine. So I don't know. Either way, whatever her status was, I don't know. Whether she was Hagar or whether a new woman, I don't know. But the bottom line is he has sons, and promptly the Torah says, what does he do? He sends them away. And I'm going to ask a very simple question. Who has sons only to send them away? Doesn't even make sense. If you're sending them away, why have them? And if you have them, why are you sending them away? Again, it says that he gets married or not married, whatever. He's in this relationship with Keturah, who might be Hagar, whatever. And he has 6 sons. Zimran, Yaksha, Medda, Midyan, Yishbak, and Shuach. And what does he do? He sends them away. What are you doing? You have kids to send them away? Then why'd you have kids? If you're having kids to have them around, okay. You're having kids to send them away? Why are you sending them away? Yeah.
Is the Midjan here like the forefather of Midjan, the nation later?
No, this is actually different. This is Midjan. Interesting. Is it Midjan?
Yeah.
I don't know. We got to look up that family tree.
Yeah.
Not sure. But my question, I think, still stands. Again, question number one is, why have kids just to send them away? Question number two, okay, this is the first time I'm asking this question tonight, is why are we not celebrating the birth of these 6 children? And when I say celebrating, you know what I really mean? Why are we not pulling out, the prized champagne, slicing it with a sword? You know what I mean with a sword? Yeah, some people they pop the champagne. Some people take a sword and slice the top off, right? Shake it around and spritz the champagne everywhere. And you know why? How old was Avram in this story? How old was Abraham in this story?
100 and something.
He was about 140.
Yeah.
I think either 137 or 140. I'm not sure exactly how old he was. He was well advanced in age. And a guy at 140 or 137 to have 6 sons, and they probably weren't born at the same. I doubt that was one pregnancy, right? He had 6 sons at around 140 years old. Doesn't that deserve a little bit more of a tumult than Abraham got married and Keturah, and they had 6 sons? What? The reader says. And I'm the reader at this point, right? What? That's it? When it came to Isaac, Abraham, how old was Abraham when Isaac was born?
100.
100. Oh, it's a big deal. Can he? Can't he? I mean, you think that the prop bets on the first pitch of the 9th inning of that guy, Clase, whatever, the pitcher for the Guardians, who's now indicted, federal indictment, about to be banned forever from the MLB. Sorry, we're going off tangent here. But you think that's a prop bet? The Torah talks about could he, couldn't he? They're 100. He's 100. She's 90. Is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? And then when he's 140, yeah, normal. Had 6 kids. No big deal. No big deal. No mention of it being a miracle. No angels coming and saying, "Oh, I will bless you with the ability to have nothing garnished." You might say, no. When it came to Isaac, it's because Sarah couldn't have a kid. No, that's not true. If you look back at the narrative, what do you see clearly? The issue was with both of them. That Sarah couldn't have a kid, right? She had never had a child, and she was at the age 90. But even Abraham, even Abraham, what happens when Sarah hears that she's going to be blessed with a child? What does she say? She laughs. And what does she say? What does she say? Remember, God changes the narrative for Shalom Bayis, for peace in the home. What does Sarah say? She says, my husband's going to have a kid? Are you kidding me? He's so old. That's what she said. And when God says to Avram, why doesn't she believe in me? Saying that she's too old to have a child. God changes the narrative just to protect the love of the marriage and the respect between husband and wife. And that's a great lesson. You're allowed to bend the truth for the sake of Shalom Bayit, for peace in the home. But what's the point? The point is that Abraham having a child at 100 was a miracle beyond imagination. And then at 140, he turns out another 6 kids. And there's not even one mention of that being remarkable. And you and I and this is a very good question. Not just because I'm asking it, and I'm just not the first one to ask it. The commentaries ask this question. It's a very good question. The birth of Isaac is filled with wonder and awe and miracles and laughter, and it's this whole big deal. And it seems like it's about the advanced age of both parties. And then Abraham has a child at 140, and there's not even a mention of it being a miracle. And the question is why and what is happening here, and it doesn't make any sense. You with me on the two? Huh?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
They wouldn't carry on the heritage.
Okay, but I hear you, but the very birth the very birth of Avram would seem to be something, not of Avram, of Avram having children at that age. The birth of these 6 children, that itself would seem to be remarkable. I hear what you're saying. And we may touch upon that, one of the possible answers. So I said before, in kind of mapping out this lesson, that we're going to have to give 3 answers to the second question. Well, we're up to the second question. Now we have a few answers coming up. What were we going to say, Mira?
Just a bug.
Just what?
No, there was just a bug.
Oh, yeah. It's been around. There's one that we can't actually get. Okay. So again, let's recall the 2 questions. So we read the story about Avram marrying Keturah, having 6 sons and sending them away. Question number 1 is, why have kids just to send them away? Then don't have kids. Like, what are you doing? If you have kids, why are you sending them away? So that was the question. That was the first question. Second question is, why don't we make a bigger deal about Avram's miraculous effort in having children at this advanced age? And you might be thinking, well, back in the day, people had kids at a late age. That's not, it wasn't like that. Even though Avram lived, he lived to 175, but already before that, like Rashi points out in his commentary on Torah, that, the lifespan went from 100 centuries before the flood to about 120 years after the flood. And people were, like childbirth was, pretty much middle age. Rashi says maybe 60, maybe 70. Like for men, not for women, right? Like maybe you could pull it off then. But 140? Come on. We should make a big deal about it. So why not? So 3 answers to this question. We're going to begin with the, we're going to skip text 2. I paraphrased it. Okay, text 3a. We're going to begin with Nachmanides, the great Ramban. Okay, the great Ramban says as follows. Scott, please read text 3a.
I will tell you something true and clear about the Torah. The Torah only mentions miracles that a prophet or an angel foretold. The Torah does not mention every miracle that occurred to assist a good person or punish a wicked person.
Okay, Nachmanides has a rule. It's good to have rules. This is a rule of thumb. And what is the rule of thumb? The Torah, and I'm just going to repeat what you just said. The Torah only mentions miracles that a prophet or an angel foretold. That's it. It's only called shots, called miracles. Like Babe Ruth, the famous called shot. He points to center field and then knocks a home run. Yeah. The Torah only mentions the miracles that were foretold. Like if an angel says, or if God says, you're going to have a child at the end of a year, and then the person had a child, boom, we're going to learn about it. Something that is foretold, we read about. But a miracle that happens just out of nowhere, no, we're not going to read about it in Torah. That is the rule of Nachmanides. And therefore, the birth of Isaac that was preceded by a portend from God and from the angel, etc. So that is deserving of mention, whereas a miracle that is not foretold, like this one, Abraham having kids with Keturah, so that is not mentioned, that's not highlighted in the Torah. Yes, it'll mention that he had a child, or children in this case, but it's not going to make a big deal about it because it wasn't foretold. Now, what's the logic behind that? I'll be honest, I don't know. I don't know, like logically or conceptually, why it matters whether it was foretold or not foretold. But so it is. If it's foretold, it's highlighted. If it's not foretold, it's not highlighted. Okay, all right. We make a big deal or we don't make a big deal. Now let's read the Netziv. That's answer number 1, and that explains why why this miracle having kids with Keturah is not highlighted, because again, it wasn't foretold. It wasn't whatever. It wasn't predicted. Text 3b is the Netziv. Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin, the great 19th century scholar and head of the Volozhny Yeshiva. So he writes as follows. You know what, Scott? I'll give you the 3s. Take 3b, please, as well.
Abraham was much older than he was at Isaac's birth. Nevertheless, this was not considered a miracle. Once the door was opened for Isaac's birth, and his body became capable of procreation despite his advanced age, it remained that way for the rest of his life.
Oh, now we're getting to an interesting answer. What's the answer? It actually is a little bit intuitive. What's the answer? Somebody repeat it back to me in their own words.
He was already fixed or unfixed.
as it were. Exactly.
And he was good to go for the rest of them.
Good. We're not gonna double up on miracles over here. Like the same genre of miracle, but one happened, 40 years earlier, one happened 40 years later, whatever. It's the same miracle. Like, here's an older person that physically shouldn't be able to have kids. God makes a miracle and they have kids. And then it happened again. All right, just deal with it. It's the same miracle. And basically, the logic of the Netziv is once the door is open to the miracle, it remains open. It's not like God did a miracle, closed the door, and then another miracle to open the door. It was open. He could have kids. He had one kid with Sarah, 6 kids with Keturah 40 years later, and that was that. That is the Netziv. I will say, if I were ranking answers, I'm going to put that one high. Listen, if this were my reality show called Rank the Commentaries, rank the explanations, I would rank that pretty decently high. I would say, look, I like that one. I like that one. Why is it not highlighted as a miracle? It's the same miracle. We already read about it last week's Torah portion, or 2 weeks ago, whatever, 2 weeks ago. We read about it. He had a kid. Done. Last week. Yeah, we read about it. He had a kid. Mazel tov. He had more kids. All right.
Keturah had to be pretty old too.
How old was Keturah? That's an excellent question.
Well, she had to be at least 60.
I don't know. How old was Hagar?
Or 70 or 80.
Like if she's Keturah, new person, we have no idea.
Yeah,
but if it's Hagar, and she already had, remember, Ishmael was 13 by the time Isaac was born.
Yeah.
So he was born when Abraham was 87. Okay, and now he's 140-ish. So how many years later is that?
53.
That's 53. And she presumably would have had kids earliest. What's the earliest age of a person to have kids physically?
Maybe 12, 13.
So let's say 13. I mean, this is not advocate. Okay, hold on.
Let's just say 20.
Yeah, let's say 20. Let's keep it legal in all states, right? Let's say 20. 20 plus 53 is now 73. Okay. All right.
Crazy.
All right. Fine. Whatever. But focusing on Avram, how come it's not mentioned again? Because it was mentioned once, and that's it. One of them.
Okay.
Fine. That's the Netziv's answer. Comes up. We have one other answer until we go deeper. Obviously, we're going to go deeper. But the third approach is a story that shares the perspective of the Rebbe of Gur, Rabbi Avram Mordechai Alter, who you could read his. Oh no, I'm sorry. It's the bio is the author of the guy who's telling the story. Anyway, the Rebbe of Gur has a very interesting approach, and it's not necessarily like a scholarly answer to the question. It's more of like a drash. It's more of a homily or a homiletical interpretation. All right, 3C. Scott, one more, please.
During his visit to Jerusalem, Rabbi Avraham Mordechai Alter of blessed memory, Rebbe of the Gur Hasidic dynasty, and author of Imre Emet, was once relaxing on the rooftop of his lodgings on a hot summer day, and he said, "The Torah says, and Abraham took another wife, and her name was Keturah, and she bore him Zimran, Yakshan. Before the birth of our patriarch Isaac, of blessed memory, his parents Abraham and Sarah underwent all kinds of difficulties, burdens, and suffering. However, Abraham married Keturah easily with no obstacles after Sarah's passing, and he was born a Zimran and a Yakshan. This teaches us that meriting a child like Isaac doesn't come easily."
There you go. It's hard to really capture in the English this idea. It works way better in the original, which is Yiddish. But to our question of why does the Torah make such a big deal about the birth of Isaac? And really, the birth of his 6 sons at the end of the portion don't really make any headlines. You know what the answer is? Because Isaac is worth celebrating. You have it says Zimran and Yakshan. Yeah, we're not printing. There's no press for Zimran and Yakshan. Like I said before, what do you know about Zimran and Yakshan? Yeah, exactly. I thought so. So, in other words, like, who do we hear about and who do we make a big deal about? Isaac. Why? Because Isaac. And you know what? To have an Isaac requires a lot of effort. It's like a miracle to have an Isaac. To have a Zimran and Yakshan, you can have one today, you can have one tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, doesn't take any special skill to have a Zimran and a Yakshan. that it works better in the Yiddish. It's less offensive or more offensive. I'm not sure which one in the Yiddish, right? Probably more offensive in the Yiddish. Not really. It's not offensive. It's not meant to be offensive. It's meant to be like, our question is, why does the Torah not make a big deal about Avram's miracle birth at 140? Because there was a Zimran and a Yaksha. Like, what do you want to say about it? He had a Zimran and a Yaksha. That happens every day. And Isaac, we're going to have a whole discussion about Isaac. How was he born? What were the miracles involved? Because he's a champion. He's a champ. Okay, that is that. Those are the three answers to our second question. The second question was, why don't we make a big deal about the birth of Avram's 6 kids? And the answer is number one, because, what was number one? The first answer was because, it wasn't a miracle that was foretold by a prophet or an angel. Okay, whatever that was. Second answer is because, we already have the miracle. Once Avram could have kids, he could have more kids. So we already read about it. And the third answer is, what, you want to make a big deal about Zimran and Yakshan? All right, knock yourself out. But the Torah is not going to go crazy about a Zimran and a Yakshan. Okay, this takes us, so we have answers to the second question. We don't yet have answers to the first question. I mean, not directly. Why does he have kids only to send them away? Maybe you could say, well, when he realized they were a Zimran and a Yakshan, he's like, all right, sayonara, baby. But no, but all joking aside, like, why does he have kids only to send them away? We're still left with that question. And now I want to ask another question. And the other question, this is the third question. The third question has to do with the incident or the episode of 40 years prior, i.e. the birth of Isaac. Okay, so now we're going to focus on that for a second. And let's take a look-see at text 4a. Okay, so join me on 4a. Remember, this is now looking back 40 years and looking back at the birth of Isaac. And look at what the Torah says. Text 4a. Dasi, please read.
And Sarah said, God gave me a reason to rejoice. Everyone who hears about this will rejoice with me.
Now, let's understand the word rejoice in the Hebrew is tzachok. Tzachok sounds like, well, laugh or rejoice, but it also sounds like the name Yitzchak. And then look at the last words in Hebrew, kol hashomea, Yitzchak li, whoever hears about this will rejoice or laugh with me, meaning Yitzchak is rejoice and laugh, and hence the name Yitzchak, or in English, Isaac. It comes from the word Yitzchak, which means tzchok, which means laughter or rejoicing, etc. But what does it mean? Everyone who hears about this will rejoice with me. That seems to be weird. I mean, I'm sure people liked her and were happy for her, but can you really say that when somebody individually experiences a simcha, everybody rejoices with them? What does that mean? Now, I know what you're thinking. Yeah, you throw a big kiddush, right? You throw a big kiddush, and everyone's going to rejoice with you. That's it. Well, they might be rejoicing with the kugel and the schnapps, but, by proxy, they're also rejoicing with you, which reminds me that I actually received a very interesting text earlier tonight. This was a text. Hold on. Stay with me. This was, my sister sent this in a family group chat. The Kugel Shop, SHOPPE, Chayei.com. I've never seen kugel presented in such an elegant fashion. I mean, artisanal kugels presented like this. Have you ever seen something like that?
No.
I mean, seriously, have you ever seen kugel presented?
It's like a stick of butter.
It looks like a stick of butter. I can't believe it's not butter. Oh, and you can get the deluxe kugel tray board, 15 kugel flavors. I mean, how much kugel can you eat over there, right? And that is for the low price of $490.
What?
Yeah, some sticks of kugel. I can't even fathom. I saw this and I'm like, it's got to be an SNL commercial. It's got to be like one of those fake commercials. Like, it cannot be real. Oh no, this is real. This is real. Welcome to 2025. The homepage says the blend of tradition and presentation, elevate every occasion with artisanal kugels. I don't know about you, but Artisanal kugels, those two words have not gone together since the beginning of time. But here we are.
Wouldn't have ever thought to put them together.
I know, right? The Kugel Shop, hey, kugelshop.com. There's no, just put in my referral code. I'm kidding.
Kugel at the retreat.
The Kugel, Arab Shabbos?
Yeah.
that kugel was
The
good.
Silvermans.
It
Yeah, it
was
was very
really
good. You've never had my potato kugel. My potato kugel is next level. I'm just saying.
So I'm looking forward to
I'm
that.
just saying. Yes, it's gonna happen. It's gonna
Okay.
happen one day.
Gourmet.
Yes, it's worthy of the Kugel Shop with
I'll
two P's
vouch
in it.
for it.
Okay.
I'll vouch for
Yes.
your kugel.
Jay, yes, you have had some Kugel. All right, back to the story. So, what does it mean when Sarah says, "Everyone who hears about my simcha of having a child will rejoice with me"? Like, why? Why are they all rejoicing with you? Comes along Rashi, and Rashi gives a very interesting interpretation. Dasi, please read 4b.
Will rejoice with me. Many infertile women gave birth alongside Sarah. Many ill people were cured on that day. Many prayers were answered alongside her prayer. Thus, there was much rejoicing in the world.
Look at that. Look at that. On the day that Sarah, our matriarch Sarah, gave birth, other women who needed the blessing of children had children. People who were ill were cured. Prayers were answered. And thus, Rashi concludes, there was much rejoicing in the world. Hence, the phrase, everyone who hears about this will rejoice with me, meaning there was a lot of simchas to go around. And the obvious question is, why? What's the case? So we explain what the verse means, that everyone who hears about this will rejoice with me. But the larger question is why? Just because she has a kid, so everyone's prayers are going to be answered? What does that mean? And that last question, because this is the third question we've asked tonight, this last question will unlock the key to the conversation, the key of insight to this entire topic that we are addressing and really struggling with tonight. And it goes like this. You know, we typically think of the birth of Isaac as a very particular event that was a very, specific or individual or particular simcha. He was born to a family, to a couple who couldn't have kids, and he is the next link in the chain of the Jewish people. But we rarely think of the birth of Isaac as a global event. And the way the Rebbe frames these verses, this Rashi, this entire topic, is that the Torah is really teaching us that the birth of Isaac wasn't just a personal or private matter, a simcha of a family, and not even the simcha of a people. It was a simcha of humanity. Why is that so? It all goes back to the role that the Jew plays in the larger world. If you were to ask a Jew, well, what does it mean to be Jewish? What is the role of being Jewish? What's the mission? A Jew might say, well, Torah and mitzvot. Studying Torah, doing the mitzvahs, doing good deeds, making the world a better place. That's my role. However, there is something missing from that equation. And what's missing from that equation is a larger objective, which is not just that the Jews should observe Torah and the 613 Jewish mitzvot, but that the Jew should also teach and encourage and inspire the rest of humanity. Not necessarily in the performance of the 613 mitzvot, but in the performance of the 7 Noahide laws. And being the meaning of the prophet, I think it's Isaiah, who says that the Jewish mission is to be an Or Lagoyim, which means a light unto the nations. That is meant quite literally. Not just an example of what it means to be, inspired religiously and inspired by the word of God and keeping to one's mission. Not only that is true, but plus there's more. And that is that the Jewish mission is to literally teach and allow for the teachings of Torah to inspire everybody. Now, Again, just to be very clear, it doesn't mean that everyone needs to follow, all of humanity to follow all of the particular Jewish nuances. But the 7 Noahide laws cover their general rules that have a very large application. And the goal is to not just be Jewish, but to inspire everyone to be godly. That is a larger mission, and it's a collective mission. Because really, the purpose of it all is for the world to be uplifted. And that's not going to happen by just, one people on earth, doing a particular action. It's about everybody coming together. Everybody in their own way, in their particular way, but coming together under one idea. And so here is the big idea of tonight's class. The birth of Isaac was not just a simcha for a family, not even a simcha for a people. It was a simcha for all of humanity. And that's why on the day that Isaac was born, what happened? Other people were healed. There was blessings for everybody to indicate that the birth of Isaac is not just about Abraham's family or even Jews and Judaism. It's about the world, the larger world. It's a blessing. Literally, his birth was a blessing for others, for other peoples of other faiths and other cultures, other societies. And that is really the Jewish, it's a message for Jews, that the mission is not just to be particularly Jewish, but to be an inspiration for all. This explains a very powerful Talmudic passage, which is text number 5. Meir, I'll ask you to please read text 5 in just a moment. Hold on. All right, take it away, please.
When the Torah was given to the Jewish people, a great sound was heard from one end of the world to the other. All the pagan kings trembled in their throne rooms and sang an ode to God, as it is written. And in his chamber everyone spoke of his glory. They then gathered before Balaam, the wicked soothsayer, and asked, "What is this incredible sound that we heard? Is the world being visited by a flood?" He replied, "It is written, God sat enthroned at the flood, God sat as king forever. God swore that he would never bring another flood to the world." They replied, "He might not bring a flood of water, but he might deluge the world with fire, as it is written, Behold, God will contend with his adversaries with fire." Balaam replied, "God promised he would never destroy the world again." "What then is this terrible sound we all heard?" they asked. He replied, God kept a hidden delight in his treasure room for 974 generations before the world was created. He now seeks to give it to his children, as it is written, God will give strength to his nation. They immediately replied, God will bless his nation with peace.
Beautiful. Thank you for reading that. Very interesting because, this Talmudic passage goes through some verses in Psalm 29, which we recite. It's the prayer that we recite on Friday night, right before the Lichadodi. Anyway, what's the point? The point is that when the Torah was being given on Sinai, who was impacted? What's the upshot of text number 5? Who was impacted by the giving of the Torah at Sinai? Everybody. All of the pagan kings in their throne rooms. There was movement. There was sound. There was, chaos, not in a bad way, but there was a tumult. And they gathered before Balaam. They said, "What's going on?" He's like, "The Torah's being given. Are we being destroyed?" "Nah, you're not being destroyed. It's all good." But what's the point? The point is it wasn't a private affair. It wasn't a private matter. It wasn't that God met the Jewish people at Sinai, gave the Jewish people the Torah, and then we went home. When God gave the Jewish people the Torah, everybody knew about it. You know why? Because the purpose of Torah is to impact every single human being on earth. That's the point of Torah. Torah is about having a global impact. And again, not necessarily in the observance of all of the 613 mitzvot, but in the idea of living under divine authority, living under divine sovereignty. That is a universal value. That's the very first of the 7 Noahide laws, the laws for all mankind. You know that denim company, 7 for all mankind? You ever think about the name 7 for all mankind? Think about it. It's pretty clear. 7 for all mankind. And what is the idea? The idea is that it's under the auspices of God, living under, divine authority and divine awareness and divine purpose. That is for all humanity. And where does that notion come from? It comes from Torah. And who spreads the word? I mean, Jews are supposed to spread the word for all of humanity. Take a look at text number 6. Text 6 is a pretty powerful one. Tova, please read text 6.
And it was evening and it was morning, the 6th day. Why is the 6th day preceded by a definite article, whereas the other 5 days appear without the definite article? To teach us that God made a covenant with the works of creation and said to them, if the Jews accept the Torah on the 6th day of Sivan, you will exist. If not, I will return you to the primordial state of chaos and disorder.
Think about this for a second. How many of us are familiar with the Midrash and the Talmudic passage, and Rashi brings it, that says that when the Jews stood at Sinai, God said, you want it? Because if not, I'm going to drop the mountain on your heads. You familiar with that? You know that one? It says that they stood Tachat Hahar, beneath the mountain. Yeah, famous idea, right? That they stood under the mountain. I mean, under the mountain, at the foot of the mountain. No, under the mountain. Under the mountain means that God suspended Mount Sinai over their heads like a barrel, and he said, take it or you're done. But how many of us are familiar with what we just read from the Talmud? Another passage that said that it wasn't just the existence of the Jewish people that was at stake. It was the existence of the whole world that was at stake. If the Jews said no to Torah, guess what? The whole situation, this whole gambit, can we call it, is that a gambit? I don't even know what a gambit is, but it sounds right. This whole situation goes poof, it's done. The whole purpose of the world is that everybody be guided by Torah values, divine values. The Jew with the 613 mitzvot, everyone else with the 7 large Noahide laws, but either way, guided by divine values. If that's not accepted, if it's rejected, then guess what? There's no purpose to any of this. So everyone's done yet.
How is that in keeping with Hashem promising to never destroy the world again?
Well, that's a good question. God's right. So if God said, I'll never destroy the world again, I feel like, I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, I have a few potential answers, but I would just be making up, an answer off the cuff. You could say that, well, maybe he meant like if something minor goes wrong, but if this goes wrong, well, then that would be that. Or maybe it's, destroying the world is destroying the world and then kind of restarting with something like he did with Noah. This wouldn't be destroying the world. This would be literally vaporizing the entire history of the world. Because as Kabbalah says, if you undo the reality of the world, it's not just from here on out, it doesn't exist. Since God is beyond time, it means that it never would have existed in the first place, which is a much deeper erasure, not sure how to pronounce that, than a flood. So maybe God says he won't destroy, but remain, destroy, but still keep the whole thing going, as opposed to this, which is a total...
do it worse.
Yeah. I'll never do that, but I'm ready to do worse. No, but it means that this whole thing, like, it wouldn't have existed.
Isn't he talking about actually returning the world to chaos the way it was?
Yeah, which means it's a pre-creation state, meaning the whole purpose is to have purpose. If it doesn't have purpose, then there's no purpose. But what's the point? Where does purpose flow through? It flows through Torah. This is the key idea. This is the key point of tonight's class. It's easy to think that, okay, well, everyone's got their mission. The Jews have their mission, the rest of humanity has their mission, and the separate missions or whatever. But the purpose of tonight's class is to demonstrate and to illustrate through all of these different texts, from the beginnings of the Jewish people all the way culminating with the experience at Sinai, that it's not 2 separate missions. It's almost one mission that manifests itself in 2 ways, right? It's one mission, and the missions are intertwined. And the mission of the Jew is not just to keep the 613, but also to inspire, right, others. And by the way, when the Rebbe was sharing these ideas, and this really picked up steam in, I think, like maybe late 70s, but really I think in the 80s, about everyone's, I think, familiar at this point with the yeshiva students on Friday who hang out on the streets in Manhattan and say, hey, excuse me, sir, you're Jewish. We'd like to put on tefillin, or would you like some Shabbat candles? If you meet someone who likes Shabbat candles, whatever it is. And yeah, that's okay. But what happens if you say, hey, excuse me, you're Jewish? And they say no. Have a nice day. The Rebbe said, then talk to them about the 7 Noahide laws. And so there's you can give them cards with the 7 Noahide laws. And people push back on the Rebbe saying, why are we getting involved in other people? Let's keep it to ourselves. Let's work on Jews.
Right,
and the Rebbe said, look, when we were being pogromed and running for our lives, then maybe there's no platform to say, and wait, be moral, right, as you're running from a burning synagogue.
Rabbi Ari.
But hold on one second. Let me just round this out. But in the United States of America, in the 20th century, now the 21st century, we have a platform. We live in a free country, and we all have the ability to be influencers. And the question is, what do we use the platform for? I will never forget watching, and you can watch this video. Who was it? It was an author. Who was the author? A famous Jewish author was sitting at a Farbrengen. And you see him. You see the head table, if you know how the Rebbe Farbrengen. You see the Rebbe sitting in the middle of this long table. And you see this author. Who was it?
Do you mean Elie Wiesel or Leon Uris?
No, not Elie Wiesel. Like a novelist, like a Jewish
Leon
novelist.
Uris.
No, I don't think so.
No?
Maybe so. Or Chaim Potter. I don't know. What are these guys? What are these guys?
Oh, Chaim Potter.
He's got a little fedora, a little gray fedora he's wearing. And the Rebbe is saying, when you have, he's not speaking to him, but he's speaking to him. He says, when you have influence, when you have a platform, when you have books that are read by millions of people, you have to make sure that your plot, that your theme, that your message is inspiring. Not just write a book that's going to sell copies, but what's your message? And it's a call to all of us to not just be insular, but to be influencing, to be influencers, not insular, but influencer. There you go. That's a bit of a tagline that we just came up with. What's the point? This is the Jewish mission. That's why Sinai was impacting everybody. This is why Isaac's birth was met not just with Sarah's miracle, but with the miracle of so many people, so many women who previously weren't able to have children, had children. So many people who were ill became healed. So many people who needed blessings were blessed. Why? Because Isaac is not just a kid to a family, not just one of the 3 forefathers. I know that sounds wrong, but one of the 3 patriarchs of the Jewish people. He wasn't just a Jewish patriarch. He is someone who's part of this mission to impact the world, and thus his birth did impact the world. And that's why amazingly, what happens right before Isaac is born? What happens? God changes the name of his parents. And what are the names that are changed? Help me out here. Let's do this together.
Avram.
What was his name before? What was his name before? Avram. And what was his name after?
Avram.
And what was her name? Her name was?
Sarai.
Sarai. And what was her new name? Sarah. What does it mean? What does it all mean? It's funny because last year we had a class on Avraham, on Abraham, Avram. Remember we said Avram means he's just the father of Aram. Avraham means Avhamon goim nisaticha. I'm making you a father of many nations. Hold on for 1 second. You're calling Abraham by a new name. God is giving him a new name to connote the father of many nations before the birth of whom? Isaac? What? Before you give birth to Isaac, I'm calling you the father of many nations? Before you give birth to the child that's going to carry on the Abrahamic and Jewish legacy, I'm going to call you the father of many nations? How does that even make sense? But when you understand this point of tonight's class, it all makes sense. Because the purpose of the Jewish mission is not just to impact Jews, but it's to impact the entire world. So before Isaac can be born, Hashem, God Almighty, has to communicate to Abraham, this is not just a Jewish kid. This is a person who is also going to impact many nations. And before Sarai has a child, her name is Sarai, which means my princess. And God says, no, Sarah, you're going to be the princess of many. But why many? Just Isaac. No, because Isaac is not just Isaac. The first Jewish kid born, Abraham and Sarah, the first Jews, but they kind of came to this monotheism thing kind of midstream. Isaac was the first kid born into this movement. And so God tells his parents, listen up. You're not having a kid, just a personal kid. You're not even having only a Jewish kid. You're having someone, you're giving birth to someone whose mission it will be to change the world for the better. And everyone here has the same mission, to not just be good and righteous and do the right thing and Torah and mitzvot and all that stuff, but to impact everybody. And again, it sounds kind of crazy. We always talk about this in the context of don't just reach out to, don't just worry about yourself, worry about your fellow Jew. And now it's like, no, worry about your fellow human being. It goes beyond tribalistic borders. That's the message of Torah. And so I started the class with a question, 2 questions. We had 2 questions to start the class. I'm going to start with the second question first. Second question is, why don't we make such a big deal about this? That Abraham had 6 more kids. Well, think about it. Who were his kids? Abraham's 6 kids with Keturah. Who were these kids? Would you consider them Jewish kids? It's a simple question.
No.
Were these Jewish kids? Did they carry on the Jewish legacy? They didn't. How do we know this?
They're not mentioned another time to show.
They're not mentioned. What else? What does the Torah tell us? What happened to them?
We don't know.
He sends them away.
Send them away.
And I asked the question before, why have kids to send them away? I'm going to answer both questions in one drop. Why have kids just to send them away? And why is it not considered a miracle? It all comes together. You know why? Abraham was demonstrating that the influence has to be not just on the Isaac, but on the nations of the world. Abraham has 6 more kids and sends them out to the east. Who are these kids? I mean, let's speak frank. We wouldn't consider them to be Jewish kids. They didn't. It says that Abraham gave everything, his legacy, to Isaac. And what about these 6? He sent them to the east, but he gave them gifts. Even these kids that wouldn't carry on the Jewish legacy, he still influenced them. And that's the message for all of us. It's not enough to take care and to care about our family. We have to care about the larger global family. You know, there's a bird mentioned in the Torah as a non-kosher bird. And the Hebrew name for the bird is chasida. And when you look at that bird, look at that word, the name. In Hebrew, chasida, what does it sound like? What word?
Chesed.
Chesed. And what does chesed mean? Kindness. Now, the translation of this bird is stork, is usually stork. I don't know. I'm not an expert in ancient biblical bird callings, names. But I will tell you this. Rashi, quoting the Talmud, asked the following question. If the bird is called chasida, which comes from the word chesed, which implies that the bird is kind, why is it not kosher? We have a tradition that only birds of prey, not prey, but prey, right? Only birds that are violent are not kosher. So why is the chasida not kosher? Not the answer that's given. Because the stork, the chasida, only does kindness, chesed, with birds of a feather. Only with birds that are similar to it. And if you're only acting kind, if you're only behaving nicely to birds that are like you, if you only care about people that look like you, if you only care about people that share the same belief as you, guess what? That's not called kindness. That's not true chesed. True kindness means extending beyond the borders of your own immediate family. True kindness means extending beyond the borders of your immediate religious or spiritual group. It means extending to the other, to all of the others, to all of humanity. This is a human mission. This is even the Jewish mission. The Jewish mission is to be a light unto the nations. And whoever we are and wherever we are, the Torah reminds us to be like Isaac, someone who wasn't just born to a family with simcha and with joy, somebody who was born and everybody benefited. We're reminded to emulate the experience at Sinai. The experience at Sinai was not just the Jewish people receiving the Torah, but all of the kings in the world. They were all shook and influenced by that moment. And the message is that you and I have a mission and a calling to literally inspire everyone around us. And this is a collective mission, because when we're all in a good place and when we're all inspired, guess what happens? The whole world is elevated. And that's ultimately what it's all about. What is Mashiach? What is the Messianic era? It's a time in which the eyes of all humanity are illuminated. And that's what we pray for. That's what we strive for. But it doesn't happen miraculously. It happens through effort, through hard work, and through reaching out beyond our immediate small circles. May we be inspired by tonight's message, inspired by Abraham's, the final acts that we know about Abraham is that he gets married and has these kids and sends them away. Why send them away? Because that's the message. Even the ones that are away, you've impacted. You haven't just impacted Isaac, who's with you. You've impacted even the ones that are geographically distant and even religiously different. But you got to care. You got to care. You got to send gifts to the other, because at the end of the day, we're not really that other. Like that song in the 70s or 80s. We are family, right? Whoever sang that, I don't know. But we are one large family. And with this, may we inspire each other, reach out to each other. I will say this, last night, we had a great conversation about the interplay between different religious beliefs. Brendan Murphy. And I know we don't have a Zoom version of it and it's not recorded, and that's by the personal request, more than request. That's by the the rules that were given by the speaker. But talk about relationship between faiths and the interplay. I mean, we have examples of when things work and when things don't. Right? When things don't, it just doesn't. It really is not. It's not a pretty sight. But when it works, yeah. But when it works, I mean, we're talking about, a whole world being transformed for the positive. But it takes us. I mean, there's no magic button. It's literally each one of us being a good example, being a mensch, being a good person, caring about the other no matter what. And that just makes the world a better place. So may we invest in each other. May we care about each other. May we reach out beyond our borders. May we never have a myopic, narrow view of what it means to be a Jew and what it means. May we really care about the other, no matter what they look like or what they believe in. Like Abraham and like Isaac and like the Jewish mission to be a light unto the nation. And with this, we'll make the world a better place and bring Mashiach. Let us say, Amen. Thank you for joining me tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. I do want to mention, always have a surprise in the back sheet of these copies. Rosh Chodesh Society is launching in just 2 Shabbatot. So not this Shabbat morning, but the following Shabbat morning, November 22nd. Brand new Rosh Chodesh Society. 7 sessions, monthly sessions, once a month. This course is entitled Lift Your Life. I'll put it up here, and then I'm going to read another one. Lift Your Life, Kabbalistic Teachings that will elevate your daily reality. The topics are about sleep, anger, food, joy, words, I'm not sure what that is, faith, and potential. All right. I haven't prepared the class because I'm not teaching it. We have 7 teachers, sometimes 6, and some of them doubles up. Women from the community that are teaching women Rebbitzins that are teaching this series. Shabbat morning, 10:30 a.m. Join us. We have a great breakfast, and it's great learning and inspiration that is starting in just 2 weeks. All right, make sense? Questions, comments? Made sense? All right. Good.
Great class. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Hey, Ramon, would rather have you here. But if you can't be here, at least you're there. At least you're
Next time, God willing.
Yeah, Toba said she demands that you come back next time. So I mean, it's not even me.
No,
This one is not even me.
I mean, I pretty much got to comply at this point.
I'm gonna say like it's Toba. Like just you gotta deal with.
You know, I know she took those boxing classes. I don't want to.
Oh, that's right. He's like, I know you took those boxing classes. Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Rabbi Ari.
Yeah, Jay.
I want to make a comment. So, like, what's the entire idea of why Hashem created the earth is to make a home for Hashem in this world, and the way He's doing it is for the Yehudi is the 613 commandments, and for the Goyim, the no-hide laws.
Exactly.
So I think that's the major idea. It's making
the major idea is that we're all in this mission. Now, some have 613, some have 7, because it's not a numbers game. The point is that we have to care about the large. Imagine, okay. Oh, I have it. Oh, I cannot believe I missed this before. This one of the greatest jokes of all time. You'll love this joke. Yeah. A guy's walking down the street and sees a construction crew, and he sees one guy is digging a hole, and then the guy right behind him is filling it up. He's like, "What's going on? You're digging and you're filling, and nothing else is happening." The guy says, "Let me explain. Usually we have 3 people on the crew. I dig, the other guy puts in the pipe, and the other guy covers it. Well, the pipe guy is missing. So what? We shouldn't work today." That's what he says. What's the point of the story? If you're just like, well, no, I'm just digging. I don't care that there's a pipe or no pipe. I'm just digging. Then guess what? The infrastructure is not going to happen. We all got to pull our weight. Everyone's got to be. So if we only like, well, no, I just care about the Jewish mission. I mean, what is that? Then what does that mean? That means you're just digging a hole and someone else is covering but there's no pipe. It's not, this is not going to work. We got to care about so to your point, Jay, right? It's all about Mashiach. It's all about making the world a better place. Elevating the consciousness. Everyone's got to do it in their own way, and everybody's got to care about each other. And that's the point. It's the point of Isaac, the point of Torah, the point of mitzvahs, the point of everything. All right. Tomorrow, for those that are part of this Kabbalah course, it is wild and woolly, and we have the best one yet, lesson number 3. If you haven't yet joined, get in while the getting's good. You still catch the train. It hasn't pulled away from the station yet. Right, lesson 3. We're already getting out of 6, so it's starting to pick up steam, and maybe get a little too far out. But join us. You can still do so if you want to. Reach out to me. We'll hook you up. All right.
Ari, the Rosh Chodesh class is co-ed, correct?
No, women only. No, I am not permitted to be there.
Okay.
Women only. That's it.
Just wanted to clear that up.
Shabbat morning. Thank you for asking. Shabbat morning, women only. Taught by women, 2 women, and 10:30, about 11:15. It's a great class, great course, great design, and that's it. Okay, I'm gonna close out.
Hey,
See you
brother,
guys.